Hello and welcome to another episode of The Wave. We're doing a series of business owners and business people in this edition of The Wave for a whole week. And so I have invited one of the top realtors here in the wonderful Alberni Valley, Miss Cathy BraideN, who was our guest in our first episode of The Wave. And I'm so glad to have you back, Cathy. Thank you for coming.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here, Don.
So, how have you been doing? Are you counting your days? I am counting my day count is 36 or 37.
Well, yes, I'm working a lot from my house now.
So what's your number count, your day count so far, since you started isolating?
I think it's been about, I think it was about the 19th of March, so probably about 35 days or so.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you are not familiar with Cathy, she's one of the top realtors here. You're with, what company again? Sorry.
Remax.
Remax, yeah. My senior moment. Sorry, forgive me for my senior.
No worries.
So, Cathy, tell me, when did things start to change for you on a personal and a business level when this crisis came about?
Well, I think it was about the second week of March that, things seemed to get more serious. Things seemed to get more serious on the news. And, we started to notice, of course, all the panic in the grocery stores. And that's when I think people first personally started to feel what was going on. And at that time, I knew I had to start making some changes with my business, as my staff didn't want to come to the office anymore, and they wanted to work from home. And, I decided to take all my files and move to my home office where I've been working since.
So you're more or less, you've been doing that for the past 30, 35 days, right?
Yes.
So on a personal level, though, how are things at home? Like, who's doing the laundry? Who's doing the cooking, the teaching of
Well, me and my partner, we share those things, but I think the majority I do, especially that I'm around the house a little bit more now.
Yeah, I saw this game for couples, like they were blindfolded. And so who's the better cook? You're him. Who does the laundry? You're him. Who's this and that?
Well, I'm the better cook.
Oh, really? That's no surprise.
Yeah, but actually I've really enjoyed working from home. I've still actually been quite busy doing a lot of new listings and working with some buyers still.
Oh, okay, that's great. That would be my next question. So what impact has the COVID-19 crisis had on the real estate market, specifically here in Port Alberni?
Well, it has definitely slowed the market. People are nervous. There's, buyers are nervous about what the market is going to do. And, there's some sellers that are too nervous to have people in their house. So they've taken their listings off. However, we have had quite a rash of new listings, myself especially. And so that's kept me really busy. And there is some houses that are still selling.
So in your experience with the present crisis, what has increased, the buyers or the sellers, or both?
Oh, definitely sellers. I think both have decreased, but I have been quite busy with sellers. Definitely the people out looking at houses, the potential buyers has definitely decreased.
Okay. But still, I mean, based on the two sides, it's still more. So now it's a buyer's market now, would you say?
I would think that, we're sort of heading into that for sure.
Okay. So how do you handle that part of the business now? Because I've seen some realtors do virtual tours instead of actual house visits. So are you into that now?
Yes, well, we were one of the few realtors that were actually doing virtual tours prior to this happening. So of course we are continuing with that. So, for any of our listings, you can go on the website and do virtually a walk through the house online. We are taking other precautions. If we are out meeting with a buyer or seller, for instance, we are asking all our sellers to turn all their lights on and open all their interior doors so that potential buyers or realtors going through don't need to touch things.
I
So
see.
just to eliminate that and you know, ramp up the safety of that. So
Oh, okay. So
putting
up
some
to this
things in.
point, you're still doing actual home visits or home tours.
There is, we're finding that there's less of them because it's people only that are very, very serious and in a position to buy that are going out looking.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I've only done a couple. So, you know, whereas normally we do a couple a day, we're doing maybe a couple a week.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's because of the present. So given the present situation, with things the way they are as of now, what has your personal experience been, and how do you conduct your business? So So you're going online, you're doing more virtual tours,
Well,
and
like
minimize.
for instance, if we have to meet with somebody, like say somebody older that doesn't have access to computer signing, we are taking all precautions, you know, keeping our social distance and doing as much paperwork over the phone prior to the actual meeting. So, you know, really making things shorter. Of course, you know, real estate is deemed an essential service because there is people that sometimes have to move at
Mhm.
certain times. So,
Do you deal with rentals as well, or just sales?
no, I don't deal with rentals at all. We have a department for that in our office.
Okay. What
Yeah.
about business and commercial real estate? Do you deal with that, or
Yeah, I
just?
deal with commercial real estate as well as residential.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So is the market still active or somewhat dormant? It's
You know,
active, but not as active.
there is some activity, but I would say it's fairly dormant, and people can't expect really fast results right now, just because there are a lot of people that are nervous and not out looking.
Oh, I see. So there is a move to reopen the economy. What do you think of that, as far as the real estate sector is concerned?
Well, I would prefer myself to err with more caution than jumping into, you know,
Hmm.
getting things going again. I mean, getting things going is good for everybody in the economy, but you know, I think our personal safety has to come first right now. So I think we have to all be patient.
Okay, as far as you're aware, are there any programs or subsidies or any some sort of financial aid made available by the government for the real estate industry?
Well, I think it falls under, you know, like the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. Some realtors may be collecting that. You know, depending, we just don't know what's going to happen over the next 6 months or so. So they may need to collect that to stay afloat, keeping in mind that, you know, if things turn around, they may have to pay that back.
Hmm.
Also, for people that have staff, I mean, there is the wage subsidy that
Hmm.
can be looked at. Um, and I think if there's any realtors that own, you know, commercial rental space, now they've brought out this rental subsidy. So depending
Hmm.
on what happens with, you know, who takes that on, that may benefit some realtors as well.
But as a real person in your situation, in your status as a realtor, you're not considered an employee, or are you?
No, you're really, you work under the umbrella of Remax or
Hmm.
whatever company, but you are basically self-employed and
Yes.
responsible for all your costs. So it's definitely going to be difficult for some people in the industry.
So are there any, like I said, is there any some sort or some form of financial aid for realtors like yourself from the government, or
Like I
they're
said,
still
just
looking
the
out?
CERB benefit and the wage subsidy help, and there's nothing particular to realtors.
Oh, I see. What about the other one I heard of, the BC benefit?
I think that is available to anybody that's able to qualify for the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. When I think the Emergency Response Benefit is designed to help people that are outside of just regular unemployment benefits.
I see. I see. Well, I was
Yeah,
able to get mine. So you mean to tell me if you qualified for the CERB, you're also qualified for the BC benefit?
that is my understanding.
Ah,
Yes.
okay. But this
Yeah.
isn't this isn't in effect until the 1st of May, I believe.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
So how are the kids doing? And you still have kids that live with you, or no? They're all grown up, right?
I have two that still live with me. Yeah.
Okay.
They are 17 and 18. They eat a lot.
Of course, they're teenagers.
Of course, they're boys.
Does that mean you have to do more cooking?
That's right. Yes, lots of cooking going on. Lots of time to cook. So
Well, I heard the restaurants that have managed to still stay open are just like going through the roof with their takeout orders. Like they have to decline some of the takeout orders already because
I have heard very
so
good
much.
things. Yes, I've heard very good things about that as well. And good for people to look at alternative ways to, bring in some revenue and also to help keep some people employed.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
in your opinion, what is your assessment of Port Alberni's real estate market and our overall effort to bend the curve or flatten the curve?
Well, as far as the real estate market goes, I think that this all came about right at a time when real estate was just about to take off, like on a activity level. We're just getting into spring. Everybody's phoning wanting to put their place on the market. So I think that when things actually start to happen, that real estate's going to be busy.
Oh, yes, for sure.
And
It's going to put a damper on our real estate activity and our tourism too. I mean, it's summer. People are supposed to be coming to Port
that's
Alberni.
right. Yes. And I think Port Alberni and all of BC's done an amazing job in trying to flatten the curve, trying to follow the recommendations. And, everybody I come across seems to want to do the right thing. So I think that we do have an amazing town here.
Yes, I'm just so happy to be part of this community. I was just interviewing a friend who came from Toronto, and they're just so glad that at this time they are in Port Alberni instead of back in Toronto.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. We seem to be doing quite well compared to our fellow provinces in the East.
Oh, yes. I was just on an interview with another friend back east, and she was saying they were expecting snow later in the evening. I said, "What?"
That's another reason to be
Otherwise, we
glad.
have so much to be thankful for our mountains, our weather, our environment, our natural beauty all around us. It's such a blessing to be here in the wonderful Alberni Valley experience.
I can't agree with you more, Don.
So, if I recall, you were born and raised here in Port Alberni?
I was born and raised here, and so been here most of my life. I've lived in a few other places, in my early 20s kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But born and raised all 6 of my kids here in the Alberni Valley, and I think it's a wonderful place to raise a family.
And if I remember correctly, you have grandchildren.
Yes.
How many grandchildren again?
8, I think.
Well, I'm not going to give away that part, but anyway, you have 8 grandchildren. No, I'm just trying to point out how wonderful it is to raise a family here in this beautiful valley.
It really
ours,
is.
right?
Yes.
And I'm just so fortunate I'm part of this wonderful, wonderful community. So, in closing, what advice could you give any prospective buyers and sellers? Should they hold? Should they wait? Should they proceed going forward in the midst of all this?
That's a good question. And it's a question that we're asked often. I don't think there's really a straight answer for that. I think that it totally depends on the motivation of the seller or the buyer. You just can't.
Oops, you're freezing.
Some people just, they have to sell.
Sorry, you're freezing. You gotta say that again. I don't know what's happening with your internet connection.
Their job is changing. They're moving out of the valley. Oh,
Uh-oh.
I could hear you. You kind of went in and out a bit. I think it's the
Yeah, I think you have
connection.
to, sorry?
I think it's the internet connection.
Yeah, you were, it was freezing. Oh,
Okay.
Carol Ann's coming on. Okay, we'll give her a minute. Carol Ann is joining us, everybody. Give her a minute. She's a bit technologically challenged. She doesn't hear it yet, but anyway, let's give her a moment. Carol Ann is joining us, so let's give her a few minutes to, because I think she was trying to connect when you were finishing up your statement, and that
Okay.
sort of like disrupted your sound for a bit. So we'll go back to that last question. Once Carol Ann is in what? Carol Ann is connecting audio. Carol Ann, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is the sister. I will not say whether younger or older. She's just a sister. We'll not get into that. So while we're waiting for Carol Ann, so what's your latest activity so far in your real estate,
Well,
operations?
like I say, I've been very busy with bringing on new listings and getting them set up, and then we're looking for the buyers. We're hoping buyers are coming our way. I have spoken to a few people from Vancouver and Victoria, and the last sale that we did complete recently, since this all started, was a buyer from Victoria. So
Okay.
people are still coming in because we are very affordable.
Yes, I mean, by and large, our real estate prices here are very attractive as far
Yes.
as, as far other compared to the other parts of the island. Am I right? So we're still waiting for Carol Ann, and the last question I asked was, what advice would you give to the buyer and or the seller? So let's start with the buyer first, while Carol Ann's trying to connect.
Well, I think it's really individual is what I was trying to say, is because I think everybody has to buy or sell for a different reason. So for some people, they can just say, well, I'm not in a hurry. I'm not going to sell my house right now, or I'm not going to purchase a house right now because I'm not in a hurry. But that just doesn't apply to everybody, because sometimes people's jobs are changing, or, they have to move out of town. And so being that the case, then they are in a hurry, they're under a time crunch. So I think it's everyone has to decide for themselves. It's very individual.
Okay, so that's for the seller, right?
That's for the buyer or
for the buyer, for the buyer. So for the seller, like, hold your horses, stay calm, like, write it out. What advice would you give?
Well, I think the seller, it's the same thing. I've got a seller who's just built a house, and so now they're trying to sell their house. So they're on a bit of they've got the pressure of having the two houses. So of course they want to move forward and try and get their house sold. We've got other people who were going to move out of town who took their house off the market because they would prefer just to maybe relist it in 4 months or something when things calm down. Hopefully things calm down in 4 months. But
yeah.
it's hard to say. Nobody knows.
I'm waiting for my property to sell because I have a listing with you as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah, we should talk about that separately, because there was an issue that came to mind that I have to speak to you about. So in terms of financing a home now, so with all this crisis and financial disturbance of some people, what can people expect? What can a buyer expect in terms of financial financial health when it comes to purchasing real estate?
That's also a good question, because it has affected us a little bit, where a purchaser has had their financing approved and then decided to buy a different house, and then their financing was denied, even at a lesser amount. So I think if some of the lenders maybe are trying to get out of some of those commitments, that could be happening. I mean, I'm not an expert in the financial area, but we have seen some buyers that have been unable to buy because, for instance, they've recently been laid off due to the COVID. So it could definitely affect them.
So so that's another aspect that buyers, especially buyers, because they're the ones forking out the money, right?
Correct.
When it comes to So there's so many. I heard some of the people have been given a break on their mortgage. Some people have given a break on their rental or whatever. So we're not really sure where it stands as of now. But the future isn't bleak. We just have to ride it out,
Yes, I
right?
agree. I agree with that. I think we got to try and stay positive and look at what the good things that are happening now. People are getting to spend more time with their families and getting to spend time at home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've got all my gardening done, stuff in my greenhouse. There's some really nice things to this as well.
Yeah, so give me an idea of how you did you establish a routine for yourself? Like you do get out of bed at a certain time, have your breakfast, have your coffee, and to maintain some semblance of order and
Yeah, I do have my coffee a little longer than I normally would in bed, which has been quite nice. But then I try to get up and I have a little exercise routine, and then I usually dive into work after that. So it's kind of nice to be able to work from home. It's a real treat.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm working from home right now. It's so funny
Right.
because prior to this crisis, we were able to come up with one new episode a month for the
Right.
wave. Now we have a new episode every day.
Wow, that's great.
Why the Zoom? It's not as plush and well edited and well presented as we would do in a regular show, but it still gets the message out there that in spite of this crisis, ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Alberni Valley experience continues with people like my guest Kathy and so many other people who are like movers and shakers in this wonderful community that we live in. So that's an invitation to you. Come and visit this beautiful valley of ours because indeed there is a wonderful Alberni Valley experience to be had. So in parting, just give us a last message for the community in general from you, Kathy.
Well, I think remember to keep your 6 feet from people. It's easy to forget if you're out and you see somebody, and wash your hands. Wash your hands. Lots of soap and 20 seconds. Stay safe.
Well, speaking of that, when you go out, do you go out or do you send your partner off to do the grocery shopping or whatever to get things that are needed for the house?
I do it about half the time, and he does it about half the time.
And so when you do go out, do you go out with gloves and mask and hand sanitizer in your pocket and stuff like that and keep your distance with 6 feet and
Yes,
whatever?
I wear gloves most of the time, and I have a box of disposable gloves. Made a mask, so
Mhm.
I have my own homemade mask, and I actually made my own hand sanitizer as well.
Oh, really?
So I have a couple bottles of that. So I keep that in my vehicle when I go out as well. So just
You
trying to
make
take all.
you make your own hand sanitizer. How resourceful is that?
Yes. In the blender.
Oh, wow, really? That's interesting. I would
Mhm.
be interested in what are the ingredients in it. Do you have lime or lemon in it or vinegar or?
It's actually just aloe vera gel and 99% alcohol,
Oh, I see.
which
Well,
is
aloe vera makes sense.
difficult to obtain, but I found out that I realized I had some when I was organizing a cupboard.
Oh, okay. You mean your aloe vera gel or your alcohol?
Both. Yeah.
Oh, both. Okay. Well, you
Yeah.
should plant some aloe vera. They'll be wonderful to be growing into this kind of weather.
Yes.
Wash your groceries?
You wash your groceries when you bring them in?
Oh,
Or
yes,
sanitize?
I do. Yes, I
Okay.
do. You heard that, eh? Yes, so I
I've
do. I
heard that.
wash everything except for anything in cardboard. I just take the cardboard packing off and throw it away.
Okay. So in my experience, when I go to the groceries, they have like these directional arrows that you're supposed to abide by. Like this aisle, you're going that way, and this aisle, you're going that way. And
Yes.
sometimes I forget because I have to go back. I have to go all the way around for the other.
I do think it's actually a good idea, because I think one of the biggest problems in the store is people passing each other in the aisle. And
Mm-hmm.
so if everybody's going in one direction, it's easier to keep that distance for sure.
Well, I suppose so. But sometimes I'm so unaware. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. And people are all wearing masks. You don't know if they're smiling or scowling at you.
That's right.
But I make it a point. I have a nice, vibrant, colorful mask. And But I wave to the people. I'm smiling underneath this mask, just so you know.
That's great.
Yes, I am smiling because I'm continuing to enjoy my wonderful Alberni Valley experience. Thank you for joining me, Kathy, and thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next time on The Wave.
Thank you, Don.
Okay, let me just